Today we're going to be talking about why farmers and ranchers prefer old school guns. How's it going, guys, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. My name's Chad and this is the Hopeful Homestead. You're out here right now at my little campsite next to my tiny cabin on wheels that I've parked out on my family's property that we're calling the Hopeful Homestead. And today I wanted to break down, as part of a series I'm starting, a 5-part series. We're going to be breaking down all things having to do with the firearms that, in my opinion, are most fit for homesteading, ranch work, farm guns. I've touched on a lot of this in the past in some of my older videos, but I wanted to create a packaged set of videos here for the next 5 videos. It's going to be a 5-part series that is going to be all about farm guns, the pistols, rifles, the best cartridge for it, and starting off today with why farmers and ranchers tend to prefer old school guns. I've seen it a lot in the comments of these videos when I've been talking about old school guns and my love of wood and steel firearms, and how I've discovered through beginning to work out here on my family's homestead, I've discovered the right type of guns that sort of match the lifestyle and work of what's going on out here. It just so happens that they end up being a lot of the old school cowboy style guns. And no, that's not because I'm trying to play some part or some role. It's because these firearms have a tendency to fit this lifestyle and fit the task at hand really well. And I can now see why a lot of farmers and ranchers in the comments are agreeing with me and talking about how out on their farm, they're walking around with single action revolvers and having a lever gun in their farm truck, having a double barrel shotgun, sitting on the side by side with them when they're, roaming around their property doing work. There's a reason that these type of guns do so well in this environment. When I first started coming out here and started doing work out here, I had semi-auto, polymer, modern guns, and as I've mentioned in one of my videos, I was pocket carrying a little Ruger LCP, and that thing rusted out within one summer of walking around and doing work out here and stuff. It couldn't hold up to the weathering and the task of life out here and doing work. And also, I couldn't hit anything with it. I don't like semi-auto, typical modern 9mm style guns. For one, they're loud. I like 45 Colt because it's not that hard on the ears. It's subsonic for the most part, depending on what kind of load you're using. I like that. You can get big, heavy bore, effective for managing wildlife and pests and whatnot here on the homestead, but not going to kill your ears every time you have to use it. And let's face it, out here I'm having to use it without hearing protection often, and I'll break that down in the other video I'm going to do about why I think 45 Colt is the best cartridge for homestead work later on in the series. But all these guns that I use are all 45 Colt. Yes, I have 22 long rifle versions of all these, and I've talked about why in a lot of videos. For the most part, the guns I'm reaching for first and carrying with me on my hip, in my truck, in my side-by-side when I'm going around building this fence and doing all the stuff I'm doing out here, it's 45 Colt revolvers and lever guns. I do have a 12-gauge double-barrel shotgun as well. That will have its time and place for various purposes out here, I'm sure, once we actually get things set up and start raising farm animals and whatnot. Specifically as a snake gun, I could see that coming in handy for handling snakes around, chicken coops and whatnot. But for the most part, my system of firearms that I've implemented for being out here is 45 Colt revolvers and lever guns. And I've had a lot of guys in the comments of my videos talk about how that's what they carry. Either 357 Magnum, 38, or 45 Colt seem to be the most popular choices for revolvers and lever guns for people who are out in real life, out on their land, doing work and protecting their property. The simplicity of old school guns, specifically single action revolvers, the simplicity and the good build quality of them mean that it's a gun you can have on your hip that can get banged and bumped and be roughed up. And like I said, mine, I had got it caked in sawdust from chopping all these fence posts. When I was building this fence, it was covered in sawdust. Every internal part of it was caked with sawdust, and I could easily take it apart and clean it because old school revolvers are easy to maintain, they're easy to service, they're easy to clean and lubricate, they're easy to fire, they're reliable, they're a simple action that doesn't have any transfer bar systems or safety mechanisms. You're not having to worry about if you're suddenly having a wild hog run up on you while you're out here doing work, which I am sure will happen at some point. I've seen all of the rooting that's going on around here, so I'm sure that'll happen at some point. And I need to be able to draw my pistol and just pull the hammer and fire. I don't want to fiddle with which firearm am I using and which type of safety is that firearm implementing. I don't want to have to think about all that because my mind is around the work I'm doing out here. I'm sweating, I'm tired, working hard on various projects out on my land, so I need the guns that are with me to not wear out from any of the sweat or humidity. I need them to be able to be effective from a caliber and cartridge standpoint. I need them to not destroy my ears every time I have to deploy them, because it happens more often than not. And I don't care what anyone says, I'm not carrying around hearing protection with me while I'm doing farm work. Saying that is the fastest way to tell me that you've never been outside in 90 to 100 degrees working on land before, doing outside farm work. Because anybody who's done that knows you're not wearing hearing protection, you're not carrying that with you. So I need my firearm to be at the ready. I need it to be simple so that I know that it will work. I don't have to worry about the action, jamming up in any way. I don't have to worry about it being a semi-auto gun that will jam up because of having to load around. I don't feel comfortable carrying semi-auto pistols with a round in the chamber, so I would have to rack it with two hands first. With a good old-fashioned revolver, I can pull that thing one hand, pull the hammer one hand, and fire it. I can run the hammer with the trigger pulled, fanning the hammer if I need to. I can, from the hip, I can pull it and aim down the sights, and I've got a lot of options for quick deployment that I know won't jam. Whereas with other type of firearms, even other revolvers that utilize transfer bars and whatnot, I picked up a Ruger Super Wrangler that I haven't even talked about yet in these videos. I think I may have gotten a lemon. I might try out another one, or I might try to get it serviced through Ruger because it's in the warranty period. But it has a transfer bar system, and it had major transfer bar pinch. Like every time I would cock the hammer and try to run the action through, rotate the cylinder, I would see that transfer bar coming up and down, and it would get stuck. The hammer would get stuck halfway through trying to set the hammer down after cocking it, because that transfer bar would get stuck. And I'm like, this sucks. That's why I like simple, old school, true Colt clone single action army revolvers. That's why a lot of the guys out there that are out on their property running ranches and whatnot are carrying very similar guns. A lot of them carry those single action revolvers because they're so reliable and so easy to draw and fire, and you can count on them working. Short of a major failure of the gun, which obviously any gun can fail, but short of a major failure, there's no routine jamming that happens with a gun, with an old school single action revolver. And so I'm able to count on drawing that pistol and firing it and knowing it will work. And because it's so easy to clean, and honestly, you don't even have to clean it that often because it's such a simple design of how it works, you are able to. I carried that pistol with me, that Cimarron Thunder Colt single action army clone, true clone, with me while I was doing all this work out here, and I still bring it out here every time I'm out here doing anything. And it gets gunked up with all kinds of stuff, and I can just wipe it down real quick, and it continues to run and fire and be perfectly serviceable without much care or maintenance, which that's what I need in a firearm. And that's what a lot of old school ranchers and farmers agree with me on. You need your gun to just be reliable and there at the waiting, at your will, ready to go, and without having to baby it. I got a lot of crap in the comments of that video when I was talking about that Ruger LCP rusting out on me, saying, "Oh, complete irresponsible gun ownership. You didn't oil that thing and you didn't service it. It's lackluster, lazy, maintaining of your gun." And I wiped that thing down with a rag with some gun oil on it once a week, and it's still rusted out like that. So if I have to baby the dang gun to where I have to wipe it down so heavily and take it apart to service it on multiple times a week just to keep it from rusting out because of the type of nature of trying to carry it while being out here doing work outside in a hot and humid environment, then that gun's not going to work for me. I'm sorry. And you know what? Using even less of a routine maintenance schedule with these old single action revolvers, I haven't had any problems with them being out here in all kinds of humidity and all kinds of work and getting caked in sawdust and whatnot, being bumped with 2x4s. And I'm sorry, just in my own personal experience, that's why I carry these guns, and that's why I can see a lot of other farmers and ranchers out there are doing the same. And when it comes to rifles, same thing. A lever gun, same principle as the revolver. It's a single action. It takes running that lever to actuate the actual action of the gun to load rounds up from the tube into the chamber, and that allows for it to be a much more maintenance-free kind of gun. Yes, you got to occasionally clean it, occasionally re-lubricate it and whatnot, but it's not like a semi-auto rifle where you have to really make sure that thing doesn't get caked up, because you're not relying on the gases and the pressure of the round to actuate the action. You're using your hand with the lever to do that. It by nature, with its design, is much less maintenance heavy, and it will just continue to run no problem. And same principle, it will fire. It will not jam as easily as a semi-auto gun. I don't care what people say. I have plenty of semi-auto rifles and pistols. They jam all the time. And my single action lever guns and revolvers almost never jam. I mean, really never do. And so that's why a lot of these old school guys, and, you know, in talking too about the build quality, these things are made of wood and steel. These things can be dropped on gravel, you know, bumped with 2x4s, thrown in the back of a truck, you know, fall out of your side-by-side while you're riding on, you know, driving down your gravel driveway, anything. These things might get scuffed up and dinged up and stuff, but they will continue running for years and years, and you don't have to worry about them or baby them like you do modern guns that have delicate optics that are polymer based. You know, the plastic will crack. I don't have to worry about replacing these guns either, because I know I can buy a couple of really good, really well-made revolvers and lever guns and know that those are going to be with me for decades out here on the homestead. And that's valuable, because I need my firearms to just be with me and be the extensions of me, like my own hands are, to where I don't have to think about them, I don't have to worry about them, that I can just take care of them with a little bit of maintenance here and there, but otherwise I know they're going to work and I know they're going to last. And that's why old school guns that are wood and steel, revolvers and lever guns, just work so well for life out on a homestead, for all the farmers and ranchers out there. And so I think I made my case pretty clear on why I think all the farmers and ranchers out there, you know, are using all the old school guns. And it's not just for folklore, it's not just for the looks, it's because they work well for that intended purpose. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, my name is Chad. Again, this is the Hopeful Homestead. And if you feel like sticking around, I got a video right here all about why I love wood and steel. Go check out that if you haven't seen it already, talking about all my love of old school revolvers and lever guns and why I think they just have more soul. So go click on that and I'll see you over in that video. Thanks, guys.